Good morning. I'm Special United Nations Ambassador Gerald UNGA, and I'd like to share with you more on involuntary disappearance. Declaration on the Protection of All Persons from Enforced Disappearance. On December 18, 1992, the General Assembly, by Resolution 47-133, proclaimed the Declaration on the Protection of All Persons from Enforced Disappearance. The working group, which participated actively in the elaboration of the Declaration, welcomed it as a milestone in the United Nations efforts to combat the practice of disappearance, and considered that it constituted an important basis for its own future work. Many proposals and recommendations, which the working group had adopted over the years and published in its annual reports, were reflected in the Declaration. According to the Declaration, the systematic practice of disappearance is of the nature of a crime against humanity and constitutes a violation of the right to recognition as a person before the law, the right to liberty and security of the person, and the right to be subjected to torture. It also violates or constitutes a grave threat to the right to life. States are under obligation to take effective legislative, administrative, judicial, or other measures to prevent and terminate acts of enforced disappearance, in particular, to make them continuing offenses under criminal law and to establish civil liability. The Declaration also refers to the right to a prompt and effective judicial remedy, as well as unharmed access by national authorities to all places of detention, the right to habeas corpus, the maintenance of centralized registers of all persons in detention, the duty to investigate fully all alleged cases of disappearance, the duty to try alleged perpetrators of disappearances before ordinary, not military courts, the exemption of the criminal offense of acts of enforced disappearance from ordinary statutes, of limitations and special amnesty laws and similar measures which might lead to impunity. The World Conference on Human Rights, held at Vienna from 14 to 25 June 1993, welcomed the adoption of the Declaration by the General Assembly and called upon all states to take effective legislative, administrative, judicial, or other measures to prevent, terminate, and punish acts of enforced disappearances. The World Conference reaffirmed that it is the duty of all states, under any circumstances, it is the duty of all states under any circumstances to make investigations whenever there is reason to believe that an enforced disappearance has taken place on a territory under their jurisdiction, and if allegations are confirmed, to prosecute its perpetrators. Since 1993, the Commission on Human Rights has regularly adopted resolutions in which it invited all governments to take appropriate legislative or other steps to prevent and punish the practice of enforced disappearances. With a special reference to the Declaration, and to take action to that end nationally, regionally, and in cooperation with the United Nations, in the same resolution, the Commission requested the working group to take into account the provisions of the Declaration and invited it to cite in future reports any obstacles in the proper application of the declaration and to recommend means of overcoming them. Despite various efforts by the working group to remind governments of their obligation to implement the provisions of the declaration by taking appropriate legislative, administrative, judicial, or other measures, very little progress has been made in practice. With some exceptions, states have not begun to take consistent steps to incorporate the principles set out in the declaration in their national legislation. The working group has repeatedly stressed that the obligation to implement the declaration applies not only to repeatedly stress that the obligation to implement the declaration applies not only to states where acts of enforced disappearances actually occurred in the past or have continued up to the present day. In particular, legislative and other preventive measures shall be taken by all states in order to ensure that acts of disappearance will not occur in the future. The working group regularly transmits to the governments concerned a summary of allegations received from relatives of missing people, persons, and non-governmental organizations with regard to violations of the declaration in their respective country, inviting them to comment thereon if they so wish. Thank you very much for watching. Let's all stand up for human rights everywhere, be it in the Republic of Rwanda and elsewhere in the world.